So my grandfather is the true entrepreneur in the family. He lost his father when he was just 8 years old. So right through his childhood, it was a struggle of meeting ends meet. Business ethics, financial discipline was ingrained in the values of the company from the get-go.
It's not easy to transition when the next gen has a 25-year age gap.
Was it difficult initially when those conversations started happening?
Succession is not easy. We did go through a lot of heartaches. We wanted to take over more and more sooner and sooner. The succession plan was challenged, critiqued. The biggest challenge I see family businesses having is...
Do you both have your favorite brothers?
You know, we all literally shared clothes there till we were 15.
We were lucky. The next gen will have its challenges.
I think it's our responsibility to inspire them to come back and play.
Fire or pressure? "77 years, 7 brothers, egos clash, shares get divided, lawyers get rich. But this family wrote a constitution not just for the business, but for staying human while running it. It isn't about how they built the empire, it's how they didn't destroy each other in the process." Arjun and Pavan Ranga are here to tell you what the Harvard Business Review case studies skip. The messy, emotional, impossibly hard truth about succession. Arjun, Pavan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bijay.
The journey of NR Group started 70 years ago. We want to hear that story.
So my grandfather is the true entrepreneur in the family. You know, born in pre-independent India, 1912 is when he was born. He lost his father when he was just 8 years old in 1920. So he had to take care of his aged grandmother and mother very early. So right through his childhood, it was a struggle of meeting ends meet. He learned how to repair timepieces. He would go read newspapers to senior citizens, help them solve crossword puzzles. But he was fiercely driven, and he realized that he had to upskill himself to get ahead. So overnight he said, where opportunity lies, I need to go. And so he left his ancestral home. They moved to Arvangad. In the cordite factory, he was a bookkeeper. And then he saw an opportunity to come to Consolidated Coffee Works in Coorg. And this is the time when India got independence. And he was always fiercely driven, wanted to do something on his own. And took that big leap of faith, government job on one side, childhood dream of being an entrepreneur on the other. Probably one of the earliest startups, 1948, Mysore was the biggest town. Came to Mysore, started the business. My grandmother stood by him, supported him, recruited good people to work with him very early, understood that core competence is the key to progress in any business. Business ethics, financial discipline was ingrained in the values of the company from the get-go. You know, if you go look at our accounts books, we'll see he's booked personal expenses for the tea that he drinks in the company, you know.
Wow.
So that level of discipline he had, and that's what made the organization. A core competence of fragrance creation on one side, solid financial discipline on the other, and fierce belief in the saying that consumer is God. So he said we have to always give value to the consumer. He has written in many books that he wants, our chairman, the eldest, to come and join business early to support him. And so our chairman sacrificed a lot. Straight after high school, he came and then worked with my grandfather, and that is what laid the foundation. And then one by one, all the other, my father and the uncles as well, came in and joined and built on with my grandfather. Grandfather transitioned beautifully to the second generation in 1965. I think the second generation completely, my father and uncles took over, I think by mid-65 itself. And they then built the business to the scale that it is. They also did a lot of diversification. There are 7 brothers. So they started pharma, they started personal care products, they started home foods. They were the initial ones to start the electronics business as well. The essential oil business that we have today was also started in the second generation. And then we joined, I think, around in 2000, and then we grew with the way the country grew after that.
Been 25 years.
Now, 25 years since we're back, yeah.
Since you have joined the business.
You know, if you ask me, just to take off from where Arjun left, right, when he talks about grandfather being a true entrepreneur, we say that because he had many failures before he started Agarbattis. And I think that's what truly defines an entrepreneur by spirit, right? That you have your spirits up. Because you may have many ventures, but you never consider yourself a failure. And that's the challenge Indians face today as well. But 50, 60, 70 years ago, for a person to say that when I fail in my venture, I don't consider myself a failure. And keep pulling yourself up and going. I think that's why we believe that he's a true entrepreneur. And just catching up on what Arjun said, it's not easy to transition from one gen to the other when the next gen has a 25-year age gap.
Correct.
You're transitioning over quarter century. So it's a very, very commendable thing to transition to 7 sons.
So Arjun, Pavan, you have built something that lasts, solid succession plan and fairness across generations. Are these more of understood or are they documented values?
We tried a lot with a number of people on institutionalizing a constitution for our family. And then we realized that this so-called social construct of a constitution you're talking about, same car, same house, same kind of spend, this doesn't necessarily, equal is not fair. Because one wants to live life the way they want to live it, while in the boundaries and the construct of a family that is in business together,
correct,
you need to have some decorum. So we kind of found a sweet spot between the two.
Okay.
We first started with a very written down constitution. Okay. Over time, we said, hey, hold on, is this how we want to live? Then we sat together and we said, look, let's kind of give room for us to bring out our individuality while holding the family ethos and values intact.
And do you think having a constitution defining everything really restricts on how the individuals might want to thrive or how they might want to, sort of live their life?
Arjun?
No, I think having a basic family constitution is very essential. For example, a lot of things that we have in our constitution in terms of understanding of education for our children, how do they need to be educated, what would happen, if they want to be not involved in the business but continue to remain shareholders. So things like that, it's good if you document it and you're clear. But within that, you need to provide in the constitution a place for each of us to thrive. If I want to do something and then he wants to do something else in terms of personal experience, it shouldn't limit us. We shouldn't say, oh, it's in the constitution, so I can't do it. Or it should not be a reason for us to have disharmony within us. And we do have quite a few of these things we have also included in our family trust as well that we have created on how things would transition. For the scale at which we are now, and the family office staff are also clear on what is personal, what is business, things like that. I think we've given a lot of clarity to the team as well.
Like Arjun said, there are 3-4 levels, right? At the top, there is the core financial impact issues. This we took what was written in the constitution and understood and translated it into a trust and a trust document, which is enforced.
Got it.
So that's the highest level of enforcement, and we all abide by it. The next level are these constitutional things that are kind of written and unwritten, but understood.
Understood. Okay.
Right. And then there is a third level where we want to also explore ourselves as individuals. And you give room for that as well. So I think it's a multi-level thing. And also for us, we consciously established a family office. Now the family office in the modern definition becomes a wealth management center.
Correct.
But we kind of took it a couple of steps deeper, the old European definition of family office, where truly many of these standardized requirements for the family are actually managed by the family office.
Okay.
And it is wealth management is a part of that, but it is not the only
whole of
we
it.
do there.
And you both went to Harvard Business, school to learn the family, business. Do you say it is that program where you learned the importance of documenting family business values?
Actually, the second generation documented a lot of things.
Okay.
Wrote down what the values of the businesses are, what the values of the families are. Talked about family governance independent of the business. They kept insisting that we looked at family independent of business.
Okay.
They kept insisting that we do it as well. And, it took us a little time. And that's the issue with most families, is that this takes a lot of perseverance, and you need to be driven at some point of time to get it done. And then the transition takes about 4 to 5 years. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not like, you make one document and you're done. So,
Correct. Also, the Harvard experience, what you learn from the professors is one thing, but our real eye-opening happened listening to the experiences of other more evolved families who came there. These were much larger businesses, larger families from around the world. And we kind of realized most issues are common. And to be fair, my uncle and my father had a long chat, and we called them and said, hey, we've decided to come back to the business or to India. And I remember very distinctly in that call, them telling us, don't come like this. There's a program. They are the ones who actually guided us to the program.
Got it.
And kudos to them. This was 25 years ago, to know that there is a
1999
planning program.
That was not common sight in India for families to even look at and talk about.
And then they said, you come back, prepare a succession plan. Let's have a chat. Let's have a look at that. So it was a very evolved and mature way that the second gen handled us coming in.
Yeah, actually, they told us, we'll not tell you how you have to enter. You please tell us how we have to exit.
Correct.
And that's what they did, actually. Yeah. And we did not do a great job at that, but we did our best in that sense. And they started by transferring, and they transitioned initially by transferring their shareholding onto us first. That's the first. They said, here, we are going to, reach out to you and show you that, we believe in you. And then they transfer shareholding. Not one day did I have to go stand in front of my dad, or Pavan in front of his dad, or me in front of my uncle, and ask for money, everything was taken care of. We had our account set up. Everything would be automatic. They said none of you should feel helpless. But not the case with the businesses that we were running. They never gave us cash easily. Personal livelihood, lifestyle was always there, but they made us learn how to run businesses efficiently. The day we turned 18, our shares were transferred to us. Not even when I came back to work. We're all included in the partnership, and they said, listen, shareholding and what you are going to inherit has nothing to do with your ability to run a business. Shareholding in the company was never questioned, actually, whether we will get shares or not. It's the managerial ability of what we would get out of the business, what we will manage in the business, which was what was tested.
If you go to any family business theory workshop, right, you'll understand the first thing they tell you is there is family, there is ownership, and there is management.
Correct.
There's a way in which they interact. But it takes a lot of maturity to actually separate the three and view them from different lens.
Correct.
Right through different lens. And, that I think is very important, especially during succession. And that is exactly what, they figured.
Got it. So you said that I'm not going to do that with my kids. I would like to hear your perspective on why do you say that?
When we went for our education, whether within India or abroad, we went with the context, a very clear mindset that we are going there to learn, to come back and contribute to the businesses that were, right? And the family business that we had defined. And today, we are not telling our children that you should necessarily come and run a particular company, or, you have to come and join us the way we were trained to think growing up.
Did you both have choices to not come back to the business?
Right. My summer vacations when I was in 7th, 8th would be with my father and uncles in the factory, smelling fragrances. I would go to the market with dad. And we, like Pavan said, we all grew up in a joint family. So there would not be one day where there would not be 2 agarbattis lit in the corner that we'd all go and, have a whiff of. So grew up, dining room conversations about business. So I was always enthralled and excited about what this business was, what it had created. The people working in the business as well had grown up with me, So I knew everybody in the company even before I came and joined the business. So did I even entertain the thought of doing something else? I did when I was younger, when I was in high school. But by the time I went to college and in engineering, I realized this was my calling.
Honestly, I wanted to be a footballer.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know Arjun also in his heart is a sportsman.
You were backbenchers.
Into sport, we were into adventure. This is how we grew up.
Yeah.
So first thing is there was no mandate. that you need to come back. You have to do this. There was no such mandate. And even today, there is no mandate for our next generation that you need to come back, you need to do this. But I think what we realized is we get inspired. See, what we can do with our kids is to inspire them to come and say, hey, it's not just about the business. It's about the town, it's about the community, the society,
The legacy.
And there is so much more that is there to feel fulfilled.
That is Pavan answering in his 40s. But do you think Pavan in his 20s would have answered the same way that, this is a great opportunity to go back and, at that point of time, at least
Honestly,
like, Agarbatti.
I don't think I was ever cut out to be a businessman, to be honest. I was always having fun, always relaxed, not very disciplined. I hated the word hard work, but we were never the typical, the ingredients that make a typical.
I think the right word would be happy-go-lucky.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's how we grew up. And so I think, if you ask the Pavan, I was in my 20s. I don't think I was in a hurry to get back to business or get into business or anything. I just wanted to, go travel around the world, experience different things. And that's, in a way, we've kind of done that, I think, while we've tried to do our best in business as well.
So, we spoke of family ownership and management and looking them as like, separate entities. Where does one begin?
I don't think there is a beginning point, in this context. I think the important thing for a family to realize is if you define 3 circles of management, family and ownership, you have to clearly define what roles each of them play. And then there are people who play multiple roles, right? Like us cousins are operators of business management, we are owners and we are family members. Whereas my mother is neither an owner nor a management person, but she is a family member. Now, defining what their roles are is important because in the context of a business family, family ownership and management are all very important. The clarity of thought of what roles they need to play is what is important. I cannot think like an owner when I'm taking a decision on a family matter. Or I can't think as a manager when I'm taking a decision on ownership. So getting this clarity is what is important, rather than the beginning point.
So for me, everything starts and ends with family, and everything else in between is the bond that sticks everything together. So the ownership and the business, and then the family is on the both sides. Right. So it starts and ends. It started with my dad's generation. It'll end with the next generation. So we are in between as custodians of this legacy.
So the previous generation had scarcity as a drive, which is not the case with the next generation. Do you think that wealth sort of kills the ambition?
No, hunger comes from the fierce drive to do good for the family, do good for the business, and to do good for the nation.
Exactly.
That's where the hunger comes from, to make a difference. It has nothing to do with wealth. Wealth creation will happen. And in a family constitute, the way it happens is over generations. And for me, an Agarbatti brand that is driven by hope, a mother that lights those 2 Agarbatti sticks and prays for the well-being of their children. That's what we are there. And Pavan's Aerospace and Defense, we are there, defending our nation. It's such a proud moment for us.
Yeah.
In the aerospace business. So things like this is what drives us.
I think the answer is dual here. Deprivation, does it motivate? Yes. But is that the only thing that motivates? No.
Okay.
So it's a very obvious thing. For us, obviously, we've never been driven by wealth as a key motivator.
Look, succession planning is the conversation business families want to avoid. Was it difficult initially when those conversations started happening?
It is, there's no doubt that there is a lot of difficult moments. Succession is not easy. No matter how mature or evolved you may be, we did have several, difficult conversations. We did go through a lot of, heartaches, a lot of challenges. Now, there is a time when the patriarch or the previous generation says, hey guys, can you manage this family function and kind of run it? So there is a social family angle also, right? So transition is not just some management or some this thing or money or anything, right? There is an ownership transition, there is a management transition, there's a family transition also that happens of sorts. And to be honest, the succession plan was challenged, critiqued several times.
Okay.
To the point when we had almost given up. But once they signed off, I must say they lived by it. And that goes a long way in succession becoming successful. Somebody is giving up and somebody is taking something. The pace at which one wants to take and the pace at which one wants to give doesn't always match.
Yeah.
And the guys who are giving are the big bosses. So you got to be, it's very frustrating for somebody who's come in as a youngster, hot blood. We wanted to take over more and more, sooner and sooner. Whereas they perceived risk, they wanted to be doubly sure that that is de-risked as a process. And I think there's a lot of heartaches. I can't recall 25 years ago any particular incident, but I know very many times when both Arjun and I spoke and we said, what the hell, we can take so much more. They're not trusting us. But over time, we realized they probably did it for the right reasons. And maybe often they were right in taking their time, in evaluating us, in giving us smaller tasks, smaller ownership, smaller step by step.
So, Pavan, you spoke of heartaches, right? So, what were some of the challenges that came when you were trying to build the constitution for the family? And how did you navigate that?
So, I know that there were heartaches getting in. And, I recall even more recently, my younger cousins who have come in, the heartaches are a lot more recent. So, I remember some of those. And it can vary from so many things, right? One of my cousins took over a smaller business and he's achieving so much. But he always comes and says, you guys run big companies and, whatever I do, it's never highlighted. And that's a concern, that's a heartache that he's expressing. So we kind of figured a way around that to make sure that there is adequate focus and importance given to every small achievement, no matter how big or small the companies are. So there is a way to solve these things. Now, when you come to succession planning and constitution, right, establishment, the biggest heartaches are not for us because we grew up together. It's really for our wives. There is the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law equation. There is the sister-in-law's equation. I think they really had the biggest, I wouldn't call it heartaches, but they had the biggest set of challenges. Coming in and getting on board to signing up for a mutually agreed set of norms. I remember family business constitution sessions which got very emotional. And we said no matter how emotional it is, it's a great opportunity for us to come and align ourselves, right? And I think they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
A great deal of respect for how they handled that.
Yeah.
So I think in this whole journey of establishing either succession or constitution, there are bound to be heartaches, there are bound to be challenges. But I think these are the things one overcomes as a family to get closer and more aligned.
Talking of which, Arjun, you have very openly talked about in your father's generation, they didn't give any equity or shareholding to the women in the family. How are you changing that? And when did that conversation happen?
I think wealth creation always happened for the women in the family. They always had a role to play in the companies as well. For example, even today, my mother, my aunt, and my sister-in-law are the ones who go and create fragrances in the blending section, which is the kind of the trade secret, family secret, where we create our formulations and all of that. So that opportunity the family always gave, but they did not go beyond that, right? And the second generation daughters, that is my sisters, also did not have a choice of joining the business in any which way. But more importantly, for our generation and going forward, we said all children are equal. So we've decided for going forward, all our daughters and sons will be treated equally and be given a right to the same level of shareholding as any male progeny would.
And I think you've also said that the business would have been to the whole another level if women were given the opportunity, back in the times. So one of the things that you fixed was women not getting an opportunity. But what are some of the other things in the way it was passed on to you that you are fixing when it comes to passing it down to your kids?
I don't think it was broken for us to fix it. I think it's something that we have upgraded. Many a times fixing is not the right word to use. And if the family has to sustain, because Dad's generation there were 9 of them. Our generation we are 6. Our next generation is barely 6 now. Right, so even for the family business, perpetuating and sustaining the family business, we need more people to come in, because there are just 3 boys in the next generation. There are more girls. There are 4 girls in the next generation. So we need the girls to come and work for the family for sure now. Is there anything else we are fixing? I think what we need to fix as third generation is inspire the next generation like our fathers did for us.
How is that looking right?
We are not doing a great job at that, to be honest, because there's so much of exposure that our kids are getting.
Yeah.
Pawan's daughter is in Parsons School of Design in New York. My son is, went to Sarah Lawrence in New York and then went to George Brown to do his brand design. And now he's, freewheeling and learning a lot of different managerial things. Works with my youngest cousin in one of their startups. So the exposure that they are getting, the opportunities that they are seeing are quite varied. And we have given them the freedom to believe that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve, right? So I think that is something that we need to fix for sure, like what our parents did for us.
I think if you look at the world over how family businesses are evolving, you need to also now create a position where they may not be involved in management in the conventional definition at all. They may be more custodians. They may be operating at a board level. They may be operating not purely at a board level, but really not very hands-on. So there is a redefinition of what the role of a family member is when it comes to management.
Do you think I'm sure your parents must have felt the same way about you?
No, I think...
maybe, but definitely not to this extent. Today's kids are different. They're a different breed. They're more often giving gyan to us than we are giving to them. So, how it goes. Yeah, but, it's all fun. I'm sure they're getting inspired. That I see in them. I see now even the curiosity I see coming in our Karan and Diya when they speak to us. There are relevant questions coming out.
Do you think they're coming back and joining the family business?
I think it's our responsibility to inspire them to come back and just
inspire or pressure?
I don't think you can pressure this generation. The pressure will only come back from the mothers to us in one way or the other. So now pressure won't work at all. I don't think that is even a discussion point. I don't want anybody to be pressured to work for our business or for the family for that matter. It's our job to inspire the next generation to come and work for us. If we can't even get our own kids to work for our company, where will I get the next best guy to come and work?
Yeah, zero pressure, to be honest. Yeah. I don't think we put any pressure, because the worst thing that can happen is that there is now a leader in the next generation who doesn't want to be there. But forced to be there.
Yeah, that's what we are telling our children as well. If you actually don't want to come and work hard and are not inspired, don't join the business. Your shareholding is intact. You enjoy your life, do what you want, but don't come and sit in the business and not do the business well and not be happy personally as well.
I also think succession plan is one thing that it's one of those things that you need to do when you come to the bridge. Not really do it too much in advance and keep it.
And also not delay too much.
Correct.
But no, I don't think there's a delay. I think right now there are only two kids that are going to come and join us, Pawan's daughter and Karan, my son, in the next 3 to 4 years. Yeah. So we need to prepare them mentally. And then once they come in, I think what was just amazing for us is the succession plan for us was created with us, with our fathers. Right. And I think our children should experience the same thing. It's amazing when you actually do the succession plan together. Rather than we make something and say, here, this is the plan we have created. You follow.
I think we're prepared that it's not going to be as easy as we had it.
Yeah. So, but for the ones who's actually in the business,
Yes.
right, and
Yes.
who are working on the business, will isn't that not fair for those who are really working hard?
What is fair and unfair in family and business here? The family gives you the opportunity to work in a business, just like how you would also work outside as a professional.
Yeah, and I think, to your point of fairness, remember we are trying to separate ownership and management. And that is the right thing for the business, right? See, like Arjun said, we can be a family, but if you want to be a business family, your business is to be in business, which means you protect the business, right? Even if it's from my own self. So if you look at it, it's not about fairness to individuals, it is fairness to the whole, right? To the family, to the business, to the community, everything. And those are the right decisions.
But still, have you never felt that I'm the one who's really, really working hard and I need to have the better upside than, the other ones who are not necessarily contributing?
To your point, a very straight answer, yes, I have felt that way. Okay, that I have worked harder, I am working harder. But I'll tell you what I realized over time. I felt that way 20 years ago, 18 years ago. 10 years ago, I actually felt that Arjun was working very hard. And 5 years ago, I saw Anirudh and he was spending 15-hour days. And, when I talk to Kiran now, he's so motivated with Iris that he's like really giving it a full energy thrust. And so I think each of us go through our zones. This is true whether you're family business or not. You can't be at your best giving it everything, you'll burn out. So I think there are waves, there are times, time zones when some of us are more focused on this. Like for example, when I had young kids, my focus slightly different towards my kids. But that's because I'm human. It's not because I'm a family business or anything, right? It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
At a given point of time, somebody may be more inspired, more focused on business. But I think over a holistic, if you look at it from a more holistic standpoint, I don't think that's the right way to perceive that one puts more effort than the other and so on and so on.
You will always not understand the trust that your brother or your father has put in you. So you never actually consider all of that. You only look at the result that happens in the end and say, that result I've done, I've worked harder, I need more money. The moment you go with that mindset, right, altruism, family, all of that kind of takes a backseat.
Look, if you go down third, fourth, fifth, sixth generation, somebody is bound to have 0.5%, 1%, and we've seen that.
Correct.
In many workshops, in other families. Now, where is the motivation for them to come in and work? So people feeling that they should be compensated more is a fair feeling.
Correct.
But they may not be a solution to that. A lot of families actually have found a way to give an amicable exit. Because ultimately what is important for a family business to be successful is that every family member should truly believe he's better off being part of this family business than independent. The minute a person starts to question this in the back of his mind, it's the beginning of the end. So how do you motivate them to keep that belief fundamentally intact? And as you get more and more diluted, it's important to get some people an out. You must have an exit mechanism, and that's an very integral part of a good constitution. And we have that too.
So how does that work?
If and when a person feels that they want to be independent and they believe they're better off that way, the construct is like this. But if a person wants an exit, there is a valuation of the business done. There is a significant discount offered to that valuation. And then the person is given an exit with an extended cash flow provision to fulfill his portion, to buy out his portion.
His or her
portion, right?
Yeah.
So
over a longer period of time.
Correct.
So there is an exit mechanism. The one getting the liquidity and the exit compromises on valuation and the consideration payout. Because that way you're not disturbing the business.
Yep.
A lot of businesses, family businesses died because they had to pay huge compensations to the exiting partners. So we said, let's do this. It's still going to be a handsome enough amount, and you get to live your own life.
Yep.
So there are ways of providing an amicable exit.
Among brothers, among the family, there is a certain level of understanding. Now, there can be, when you are marrying someone, let's say, the wives who come into house, she's seeing that, the brother-in-law is not putting that effort than her husband is, right? And that can also seep into it. So, has that happened? How did you sort of navigate that? What happens then?
Yeah, see, what I feel in this context is, this is a maturity that, at least in our generation, we came in with a lot of consciousness.
Yeah.
When we got married, we were very aware that this is a strong possibility.
Yeah.
And I think from day one, our wives were made aware that this is a reality that a lot of family businesses and business families issues crop up because of these kind of things. And it's real. It's real.
Correct.
You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But you can make one aware of it, conscious of it, and see how we can avoid disturbance while there may be some such feelings. And there are differences. There is no doubt about it. There are issues. People do feel that someone may be more hardworking than the other and so on.
See, and that will also happen if the men entertain that thought in the wives as well, right? And none of us did that. No one said, I'm working harder than him. See, I'm not getting anything. For me, it never even occurred, right? And I know they'll be working equally hard to make money for me like I did for them.
A lot of business families avoid bringing in that professional structure, but not you. Arjun, you have now said that you have a mandate from the board to find a professional CEO to take care of the business.
No, there's no mandate from the board. I think at some stage, every business needs a professional CEO. Because I'm also getting older, the business transition has to happen at some stage. May not be right now, maybe in a few years' time, but we need to prepare the organization to have a non-family CEO as well at some stage.
See, it's not just about father and son or father and daughter, right? If, for example, Arjun at some point says, hey, you know what, I've played the CEO role, I want to do something else, run another company in the group or do something else, there are the other brothers. It's not just the next generation. Kiran is there, Vishnu is there, Anirudh is there. There are so many cousins also who are capable of running businesses. They are running businesses today. But at some point, I think what we realized is there are professionals that are evolving in this country so amazingly that at some point they may be a professional who is better off running that position. Being a CEO is a position, right? It's a role to be played. So we must embrace that. That may be the right thing for the business. You take the case of Mr. Ratan Tata or J.R.D. Tata before him. Did they not create their own identity? And were they not custodians of... So I think what is important to understand is the position of a custodian mindset is what is important. It does not mean that you cannot create your own identity. Now, you took something and you gave something significantly more impactful and valuable to the next generation is your identity. So you see, you can create your identity while being a custodian. And I think that happens all the time.
So I really want to understand, how do you allocate funds to the business ideas of the next generation?
Yeah, very simply, we have a system where anyone in the next generation want to join, they don't work under me. My son will actually work with one of the cousins.
Okay.
And we have smaller projects that they need to start working on first, learn how to do business, understand how to look at different aspects of business. And then if they have an independent idea, then they can pitch it to the board. We've created a family corpus to fund any business initiative. We'll go through that rigor, and then we would then take a call as a family whether to fund it or not.
Got it. And I think you've also said that it has to be approved by all 6 cousins. Does that slow down the progress, or that is actually better for the long term?
Look, the process of voting only divides. This is okay for a professional board. But for a family, this is not the right construct, right? It's consensus. It's always best to get everybody on board. And if we can't, we have to move on.
Okay.
If I can't convince my own brother and cousin, how will I convince the market?
Exactly. And I think that's what we've realized. Yeah, it may slow us down a bit here and there. That's fine. Remember, we are not here to build the next Amazon. But what we are claiming is that we will strive our best to perpetuate this family business for generations. And that's our primary motive.
Pavan, what's really interesting is experts warn investors to watch out for family businesses because so many collapse during succession. So Pavan, you lead, the aerospace business, and in that you've recently raised 300 CR. So what worked for you in that?
Actually, that perspective itself is questionable.
Okay.
Because today India's private sector is run by a bunch of family businesses. And most of them have institutional and public investors. So the trust in families building great institutions, private sector business institutions, is very high in this country. I mean, you name a private sector company, except for the few like L&T and the salts, every other business, whether you take the Nifty 50, the next 50, the 100, you'll see 80% of them are family businesses. So I think your perspective that institutions are afraid of investing in family businesses is not true. What institutions are worried of investing in are startups founded by families because they can write it off and move on. So these businesses are not startups. These are very established businesses. And I think institutions actually admire and appreciate family businesses, especially in industries like aerospace, because you have to think very long term.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our own aerospace business, we had an offer from 5 funds and we had to choose.
Entering into the new business, I think you have said Astro, Puza, I would have started it 10 years back. How are you seeing that?
Yeah, from a family business perspective, I think I should have looked at the opportunities a lot earlier with my cousins. Many people ask us, right? My dad's generation, all 3 brothers worked in one business and they grew the business. Today, all 6 of us, only 2 of us work in this main business. Pavan manages the aerospace. Each of us manage different businesses. A lot of people ask us, if all 6 of you were continuing to work in the Agarbatti business, would you have been a lot bigger? And I don't know whether it would have been the right thing to do. So if we probably had all of us working, we may have probably got into services 10 years ahead of time. But on the contrary, we would not have been in the aerospace business at all then, which is the next new big thing in the country.
Or the renewable that you are
in. Exactly. Or in the solar business, for example. So there's no right or wrong in a family business construct, but I think we could have done a lot better with each of us spending a little bit more time in individual businesses rather than just at the board level. That's probably one thing that we always talk about. But that being said, it's never too late, right? Because we're here for the next 100 years. We're not taking of 2-3 years. So in the big scheme of things, 1 year here or there is not going to matter that much.
No, absolutely. Super. We've been having some serious conversations, so I wanna do a bit of a fun segment here. So I'm going to ask you share some of the statements. So you have to say who's more likely to do that. All right. So I'll start with the first one. Who's more likely to send a motivational quote at 5 a.m. every morning?
None of us.
No motivational quotes.
No chance.
Schedule a family board meeting for every trivial decision.
Vishnu. One of us. Not trivial. Any decision of important, he will ask all of us to be involved. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Announce a major idea at a family dinner with a pitch deck.
None of us.
None of us.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Well, not with a pitch deck, but definitely discuss that. Yeah, for sure. All of us would.
All of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So start a new business vertical next year.
Probably Nikhil.
Okay.
Or
He's the
even
youngest
Pavan
one?
for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's me.
Yeah.
Okay. Secretly save the first check they ever signed.
No, none of us.
None of us. I don't think any of us are like that.
Emotionally.
It should be Arjun, but I don't.
No, I've never.
Not that particular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Defend a cousin's decision even if they don't agree with it.
All of us would
Yeah.
stand by the decision any one of us take. Yeah.
Apologize first after a disagreement.
None of us would apologize, actually. The other would understand that it was not meant to be.
I think ultimately it'll be the younger ones.
Yeah.
I can see a
Yeah, but I don't think there's been a reason for anyone to
But
apologize
if
to
at
the
all,
other.
then it's the younger ones. They will take the.
Yeah, probably.
Celebrate every win, big or small.
Pavan would
I would.
probably. Yeah.
Okay. You celebrate all the wins
Absolutely.
of any brother.
Celebrate, period.
That's it.
Wins or otherwise, he'll celebrate. So. And make sure everybody is part of the
Happy-go-lucky.
celebration. Yeah.
Become the peacemaker during a heated moment.
Actually, we've not had so much of heat that much, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think we kind of figured a way out to reconcile ourselves without a third brother coming in.
Okay.
We've had issues. But we reconcile ourselves.
All right, moving on. Arjun, you both have sort of, gone to the Harvard program together, and now also in the podcast, you two are here. Do you both have your favorite brothers?
Yeah. My favorite brother is myself. I always look at myself in the mirror, and I want to be the best part of what I want to be for others as well. So what I expect from my brothers, I want to show up as the best part of that. So yeah, there's no favorites per se. I think we're all equal. We're all here together.
Yeah.
To make the world a better place. So
How about you?
For me, my brothers take turns of being favorites, depending on the situation.
Okay.
If I'm having a wonderful game of tennis and having a deep conversation about business and family, then Arjun's my favorite. If I'm having a nice evening chilled out with a drink, then Kiran and Ani are my favorite. If I'm doing some financial transaction structuring, then Vishnu. And if I'm talking some new age sciences and AI, which I understand very little about, then Nikhil, the youngest guy, is a favorite by far.
Got it. So with you, in the third generation, you are the eldest one. Do you feel a bit more responsibility on your head, as compared to what other brothers might feel? Because what you are going to do in some way going to set precedent for the other brothers?
In a way, yes, but in a way, no. I think I draw my strength from the fact that no matter what I do, my 5 brothers, cousins, and the family in general will be backing me 100%. So that gives me a lot of strength and courage. So yeah, is there any pressure? No. But do I believe I need to do the right thing, be a good example? I think all 6 of us want to live by the values laid down by our founder. So we want to live life in the right way, respect each other and value each other's opinion at every point of time. So yeah, I do take the responsibility very seriously, but it's not because I'm the eldest, but it's because I'm part of this great family.
So you've also spoken about that you actually have a balance sheet of expenses that is visible for everybody. And
we share our, that's started, I think, 25 years ago, my dad's generation itself. Each family's holdings are transparent. Each of us know what each of us earn and get and what we have invested in and things like that.
Okay.
It's very, very clear. Our financial standing is visible to each of us.
It's better to know than to assume. That's our belief.
It's not like one brother gets something that the others don't have access to.
Yeah.
Right. It's an individual choice whether to invest or not into any financial instrument for that matter. But transparency is there and clarity is there.
Can this transparency ever be restrictive, especially when there is critical feedback coming in?
We've not got into that right now because each of us know the opportunities and we would have already taken a call. It is if you've done something without the other knowing, then you can advise, no? But you all consciously taken a call together.
No, for their personal
thing.
Personal also.
No, personal, I'll tell you what happens. If they come and ask for advice, we're all always there to give it.
Yep.
But we don't step in and say, hey, you should.
Yeah, why did you make that investment?
I mean, so we don't do it.
We all literally shared clothes till we were 15. Right. And we all had we had one room where we had 7 beds and we all used to sleep next to each other.
So we grew up in a dormitory.
In a dormitory as a joint family.
And when we talk about how come you seem to have everything hunky-dory is what a lot of people ask us, even in town. What, you guys never fight with each other? What, don't give me all this, you're putting up a facade. Truth is, we grew up like brothers, right? not like cousins in
Yeah.
one house. It makes a world of difference.
Yep, absolutely. It
You know,
does.
and that's why we talk about second gen, third gen. But often people don't understand when you're second gen, your brothers, you grew up together.
Mm.
Third gen, your cousins, you generally grow up in different households.
Yeah.
We were lucky that we grew up in one. The next gen will have its challenges, no doubt about it.
So, what's really your advice for someone with a 10-year-old and hoping that the kid takes interest in the family business?
Well, do what my father did to me. Take your 10-year-old kid whenever you can to work.
I think it's never too soon. You know, get them into the groove early. You know, not just in terms of business or management rigor, but really in terms of what we are, who we are. And they get that angle in the house, but not at work. So I expose them to work, give them the purpose.
So, we are coming to the end of this conversation, and what I really want to hear from you is what is your go-to advice when a family business reaches out?
I think the biggest challenge I see family businesses having is succession. And the first advice I give is go talk to other families. Because that's the best way to learn. You know, go talk to families, whether it's around the corner, in your town, in a family business workshop, around the world if you have access. But go talk to other families. You will be surprised how common the issues are. Right. Second thing I advise all family business members who reach out to me is please communicate with each other.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing that can happen is for you to start assuming. And it starts to bottle up and it starts to manifest.
And having to get a mediator.
And you know, mediator or not, you're gone. If you go to mediator, you're done. If you've gone to the level of mediator in a family, it's the beginning of the end. And third thing, like I said, be very clear. Do you really believe you're better off being part of this family business than being independent? And you keep reinforcing that in your mind, fundamentally.
For me, I think the fundamental point is that you'd rather be working for your family than for somebody else. And if you don't want to do that, then better be working for somebody else rather than the family.
Get that clarity.
Yeah, clarity. Second, it's extremely important to have family support. When I say family support, it's also if you're a newly married, your wife needs to understand the importance of being in a family business. You need to spend time to explain. I've seen a lot of challenges in our generation where the families become nuclear and they just don't understand what it takes to nurture and perpetuate a family business. Because it's as much effort at work as it is at home. And I'm really grateful for the support my wife has given me to be able to discover. For the first 5-6 years of our marriage, I was never even at home. I used to be traveling 7-8 months of the year.
Oh, wow.
Building our business across the globe and doing so many different things. So a lot of family support is required for you to progress. Your second generation will support you because your mother and father would have seen the sacrifice. And you need to also extend the same level of support when it's time for them to flourish. That is something that has to come from the heart.
Great. On that note, this has been such a great conversation, and I'm sure family businesses or the second generation or the third generation watching this conversation will gain a lot from how you have built the constitution, how you have passed on your business to the next generation. I think there's a lot more that family businesses are bringing to the table and can bring way more on the table. So these conversations are very, very important. Thank you so much for your time and really appreciate what you are doing and being very open in sharing how you have done it so that, like you said, can contribute to the larger scheme of things and to the nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bijay.